which makes it possible to add new material, change terminology, or remove unnecessary components so the resource perfectly fits an educator's needs. Open licenses do not replace copyright, which is the exclusive right to dictate how users copy, distribute, and adapt a work. By default, all of those rights are reserved by the author, and anyone who wants to use it needs to get permission from the author in the form of a license. Open licenses are a particular kind of license that enable authors to grant blanket permissions to everyone, which makes it much easier for people to legally use the material in the way the license allows. OER works with Creative Commons. The Creative Commons licenses indicate what is permissible in the way of using a particular OER. We all are familiar with Creative Commons licenses. Here in the image is shown the types of licenses and the restrictions associated with it. The terms open content and open educational resources describe any copyrightable work that is either in the public domain or licensed in a manner that provides everyone with free and perpetual permission to engage in the 5 activities that are retain, that is make, own and control a copy of the resource. For example, download and keep your own copy. Revise, edit, adapt and modify your copy of the resource. For example, translate into another language. Remix, combine your original or revised copy of the resource with other existing material to create something new. For example, make a mashup. Reuse, use your original, revised, or remixed copy of the resource publicly. For example, on a website, in a presentation, or in a class. Redistribute, share copies of your original, revised, or remixed copies of the resources with others. For example, post a copy online or share it with a friend. OER can be organized into a variety of categories depending on type, medium, and functionality. OER can be separated by content type into 4 groups: text-led, video-led, animation-led, and multiple medium. Types of OER include full courses, course materials, modules, learning objects, open textbooks, openly licensed videos, tests, software, and other tools, materials, or techniques used to support access to knowledge. Another way of organizing or categorizing OER is according to the level of functionality offered by the OER website. For example, directories, platforms, repositories. OER involves tools, content, and implementation resources as its attributes. Tools are the open source software that are used for development and delivery of resources that may include content management systems, social software like wikis, development tools like Connections, learning management systems like Moodle. Content are materials published for reference. It can be learning resources like courseware from MIT, learning objects like Marlet, reference collection like Internet Archive, Library of Congress, and MOOCs. Implementation resources are licensing tools, that is Creative Commons, GNU-free documentation license, interoperability, and best practices, that is, for example, CMU design principles. There are a lot of materials free online that aren't OER, either because they don't have an open license or they can't be edited. This includes ebooks, journal articles, etc. A library subscription-based resources, that is journals, videos, and other materials, while accessible to students and educators, are not OER. This is because their use in education may be limited by license agreements. A widely held tenet of the OER movement is to encourage the full range of possible permissions for use. Some argue that unless an open license allows for adaptations, then the resource is not truly OER. Under this rule, resources that are licensed as Creative Commons no derivatives are not considered OER. All the available resources on the web that you may have access to at no cost, but that are not in the public domain or do not carry a Creative Commons license or other open license are not OER. Instruction materials purchased from commercial publishers are not OER. During the last few years, many countries have been developing and adopting OER policies. There are numerous universities and institutes around the globe that have actively been participating in the OER movement by offering learning material of their courses for learners using online platforms. And there are lots of OER initiatives running worldwide. For example, MIT OpenCourseware, Skill Commons, OpenStax, OER Africa, Washington State's Open Course Library Project, OpenCourseware in Japan, etc. In India, we have Swayam, TES India, Shakshat, UGC MOOCs, eBasta, Project Oscar, etc. OER resources can be of two types, depending on their functionality, general and by subject. So these are few examples of general OER resources that can be book resources or course and lesson resources. Then there can be OER by subject. Here I have taken the example of two subjects, mainly chemistry and linguistics. As you can see in the image, this is the OER in text forms. These are courses that are available, and these are the videos, labs, and simulation OERs available for chemistry. Similarly, these are for linguistics. We have textbooks, courses, and general repositories. Now it's possible to get lost in this vast pool of OER that which one is the appropriate. Hence, it is necessary that OER be evaluated. It is important to evaluate OER for quality and content, and to make sure that they meet the needs of the teaching, learning, the students, and the course. Achieve an independent, non-partisan, non-profit or education reform organization has established the following rubrics for evaluating OER. The OER must be aligned to the curriculum or standards. It must describe the subject matter. It must support the teaching process. It must offer assessment opportunities. It must offer technological interaction. It must provide exercises and other practice activities. It must provide extension opportunities. And it must be accessible to all learners. Now, how to select and use an OER? The first thing to do is to identify the need, the learning need. So first you identify your need, then you search for OER in the general domain or by subject. Then you select OER depending on the type, like text, course, video, simulation, repository, etc. Then use it in the practice, then evaluate whether it's useful or not. Depending upon that, then adapt it or refine it, then again use it and evaluate it. And until you are satisfied, keep doing this in cycle. Then after satisfaction, you can share it with your students or friends. Now moving on to the most interesting part of this presentation is the how OER can be developed or adapted. As you can see in the image, here an original diagram in a PhD thesis has been adapted again and again to suit the need of the learners in respective geographical areas. For example, first is this original diagram has been improved and adapted for Portuguese context, then it has been translated into Greek, then it has been adapted and translated to Spanish, and finally it has been adapted at the University of Cape Town for their learners. The advantages of the usage of OER are manifold. The major benefits of OER are it democratizes learning. OER are free and available online, which means that anyone can access and use them. When an instructor makes their teaching material openly available, they can teach far beyond their own classroom. Students can also access these materials, whether they are supplementing a course they are already taking or starting out on an educational journey. By creating and adopting OER, students and teachers can connect around the world, opening up networks of learning and enhancing collaboration opportunities. OER facilitates informal and lifelong learning and can bring learning opportunities to disadvantaged and excluded groups of learners. OER provides improved access. Open education resource platforms improve access to education. They allow users to access, store, redevelop, and redistribute resources freely to wider networks for greater coverage. As a result, these resources and related platforms are globalizing education on a scale never seen before. Students often choose to borrow textbooks from the library. For those that do purchase textbooks, many attempt to regain their money by selling the books after the course is over. OERs are free and available. Students can keep their materials with them, which means that they will always have access to learning materials for future use. Textbooks and educational materials are often covered by stringent copyright restrictions, which does not be used in other contexts or modifications or derivations. With OER, students and instructors can reuse and repurpose the materials, not just during the class, but in the future as well. OER helps to save money. Studies show that majority of students do not buy a textbook because it is too expensive, and most of students routinely forego purchasing a required course textbook because of the expense. The productivity of an institution can be measured in terms of its research output. The number of research publications produced by academics and students determines the ability of an institution to inform and build new knowledge. Open education resources have boosted research productivity by removing cost-related barriers to doing this. The resources help link scholars working on similar fields or projects in different geographical spaces. They offer a platform for collaboration in research and related publications. OER saves course content development time and money and reduce duplication. They promote interinstitutional collaboration and sharing. And last but not the least, OER makes an impact on the efficiency of the learner. As OER are adaptable, allowing others to repurpose them for new uses, educators are greatly benefited by it in development of course content, especially in higher studies and in remote locations. OER are being adopted by faculties at universities around the country. Even just a few faculty using OER rather than costly textbooks and course materials can have an incredible impact on the student experience. Teachers have easier access to high quality learning resources. Collaboration and sharing has the potential to further enhance the quality of learning resources and to foster pedagogical innovation due to exposure to large communities of learners and educators. Open resources have the potential benefit of wider dissemination of good quality educational material and enabling people to take active roles in shaping their own learning. As OER are generally made web-based, Anyone with a digital device can access them irrespective of their location. OER support learners to learn at their own pace, anywhere, anytime. It enables particularly the adult learners, dropouts, working students, especially able learners to learn independently. While open educational resources have benefits, they also have some downsides that include sustainability issues, quality concerns, missing human interaction, accreditation, etc. Apart from this, some barriers to the use of OER are lack of access to the internet facility, lingual challenges, lack of awareness among the learners, low availability of material on each subject, etc. As students and professionals of library and information science field, there is a vital role that we can play in this context. LIS professionals have myriad role to play in OER, including identification, promotion, managing and guiding patrons. Even the best e-content is of no significance unless there is a widespread awareness among the common masses on the availability of such resources. LIS professionals can play a proactive role in this direction by promoting OER, by organizing orientation programs, workshops, seminars, etc. Efforts should be made to integrate OER in institutional repositories. Open educational resources have great potential to meet some of the current challenges of the education system. They open possibilities for quality education resources to be accessible anytime and anywhere for everyone, including individuals with disabilities and individuals coming from marginalized or disadvantaged groups that can help meet the needs of individual learners and effectively promote gender equality and incentivize innovative pedagogical, didactical, and methodological approaches. OER fosters an environment of openness which is crucial to meet towards excellence that is essential for education. OER initiatives have the potential to increase equal access to education, paving the way for a more equitable and sustainable global education ecosystem. And that's all from my side. Thank you.
Presentation, Jaya. If anyone have any question, please ask. Our speaker is ready. Have you any question?
How OER help in e-learning, madam?
Jaya?
Yes. Yes. E-learning, actually OER actually totally helps the e-learning. If you look into it, it is for both instructor and the learner. Instructors can use it to develop better educational materials for their learners, and learners can also find educational resources by themselves depending upon their needs. So in both ways, it helps e-learning.
Anybody? Any question, please? I think there is no question. Excellent, Jaya. The concept of OER, the whole concept of OER, you are very elaborately discussed. With the emergence of internet, many educational resources are available online, and those resources can be used in our teaching learning. But while adopting online educational resources, you need to give credit and acknowledge the creator, or else it may end up in copyright issues. But there are educational resources that you can use in your teaching learning method without taking the concepts of the creator, and such resources are called OERs. any education resources in digital journal and available online are called OERs. Today, we see many OERs online, but the challenge is to identify an appropriate and quality OER. And here the role of LIS profession. You already mentioned that they have a great knowledge about OER. There are some questions, I think.
First of all, thank you, ma'am. And second, I would like to answer S.K. Bhagat's question. That is, what is the difference between open educational material and open access material?
And open access resources. Yes.
Both are open resources, but the difference is that when it is educational, you can adapt it and modify it according to your need, which is not the case for open access materials. For example, you can find a journal article that is open, that is in public domain. You can download it, but you cannot adopt it for to use. So that's the difference.
And what is difference between open and free? The question S.K. Bhagat.
Let me inform one thing to our participant that our speaker, Ms. Jaya Sharma, is affected with typhoid. So I would request our participant, until and unless it is very much pertinent to the topic of the session, please spare our speaker. You will raise your questions on our YouTube live. It's been there. We will answer this. Yeah, carry on, Suparna, please.
So we may conclude the session. Please conclude. I already said what to do.
Yes, ma'am. Now it's time for the official vote of thanks. I would like to thank our sir, Professor Udayan Bhattacharya, Director of Universal Briefing, Dr. Suparna Naskar ma'am, who is President of this particular study circle, Obik Roy sir, Obijit Naskar for his technical assistance, Dr. Ranjan Samanto, Dr. Shapon Khan, Dr. Ratanu Das, Dr. Anamika Das, and all the participants. Thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah, thank you, Kaji Noor. সবাই ভালো থাকবেন. We'll be declaring our next speaker, and very soon we'll be on social media with our new study circle, that is Study Circle 28. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.